All right. What do we got here? Lifelink. Enchantment creatures. Ooh, enchantment creatures are back. I like those. Creature. You know, let's look at rares and mythic rares. Yeah, that's a shorter list. And just... There's some of these I don't have any of yet. Okay. So, we got the new Planeswalker. The top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an enchantment card from among them. Put that card in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Well, that's useful for this set. Exile target creature and enchantment you don't control until target enchantment you control leaves the battlefield. Return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Ooh. That could be interesting. There may be jank involved with that. We're gonna go ahead and craft 2 more. Eidolon of Obstruction, first strike for 2. Loyalty abilities on Planewalkers your opponents control cost mana to activate. Wow. That's a little spicy. That's a little spicy. Ooh. Got a tutor card. Go search. Taranika, the Acroan veteran. Whenever a Acroan veteran attacks and tap another target creature you control until end of turn, that creature has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains indestructible. Archon Sun's Grace. Yay, Pegasus. Elspeth, which of course we need to craft extras of, because Elspeth just keeps coming back. Elspeth's Undaunted Hero. Oh, I didn't get any of those. I guess we'll just have to craft some. There's just a sort of Elspeth tribal deck going here too. Victory's Envoy, the beginning of your upkeep, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control, and it just rolls? Wow. Those are good. Destroy X target artifacts or enchantments. Okay. Our good boy, Kunoros. Creature cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield. So good. Haktos, the Unscarred, attacks each combat if able. Okay. If Haktos enters the battlefield, choose 2, 3, or 4 at random. Okay. Haktos has protection from each converted mana cost other than the chosen number. That's interesting. Bronze-hide lion. Selesnya colors. When it dies, it returns to the battlefield and becomes an enchantment. That's actually pretty cool. All right. Let's go ahead and move on into... Let's do black next. There were some tasty things I was seeing. Treacherous Blessing. Draws 3 cards. When you cast a spell, you lose a life. When it becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice it. Okay. Calls the Dead. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may exile a creature enchantment card from your graveyard. If you do, create a 2/2 black zombie. Do that twice, and you gain X life and scry X, where X is the number of zombies you control. Seeing a zombie theme here. A Woe Strider. When Woe Strider enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 white goat creature token. Making goats. Then you can sacrifice another creature. And then it gets bigger when it comes back. Cool. Eat to Extinction. That is some crazy artwork. Erebos, the Bleak-Hearted. When another creature you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. Sacrifice another creature. Target creature gets -2/-1 until end of turn. Nice, nice. The Nightmare Shepherd. Well then. We have a black demon flying. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may exile it. If you do, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's 1/1 in a nightmare in addition to its other types. When another non-token creature you control dies. Really? I can think of interesting things to do with that. Gravebreaker Lamia. Has lifelink, a 4/4 for 5. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card. Put it in your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So a little bit of deck thinning and some recursion. If you cast them from your graveyard, they cost 1 less to cast. I like the sparkly frame. That's something new they did with this set. I really like the sparkly frame. That's not considered a card style either. That's just the card. These ones don't have a sparkly frame. Oh, it's the enchantments that have the sparkly frame. Interesting. Okay. Target creature gets -X until end of turn. You gain X life. Or exile up to twice X targets guards from graveyards. Alright. Oracle of Half-Truths. 3/2 for Menace. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent looks at the top 3 cards of your library and separates them into a face-down pile and a face-up pile. Put 1 pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. That just sounds fun. Ashiok! We have to, of course, craft more of those. I did set this to not collected. Yeah, okay. Create a 2/3 blue and black nightmare creature token with whenever this creature attacks or blocks, Each opponent exiles the top 2 cards of their library. Not discards, exiles. That's tasty. That's tasty. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then that player exiles a card from their hand. That's also tasty. You may cast up to 3 face-up cards your opponents own from exile without paying their mana costs. So I've forced them to exile a bunch of stuff. And then I can just cast them. I like the new Ashiok. I do. I think it and the old Ashiok are going to be buddies. Paulo Caranos. It's a new Hydra. Enters the battlefield with 6 +1/+1 counters on it. And it escapes with 12 +1/+1 counters instead. Wow. If damage would be dealt to it while it has a +1/+1 counter, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. Good to know. Underworld Sentinel. Whenever Underworld Sentinel attacks, exile target creature card from your graveyard. When Underworld Sentinel dies, put all cards exiled with it onto the battlefield? Oh. But it has to die. It cannot be exiled. That's a little spicy. Demon of Loathing. 7/7 for 7. Flying. Trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices a creature. Demon. Good stuff, Demon. Oh, there's another Ashiok. The Sculptor of Fears. Draw a card. Each player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Alright. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Okay. Gain control of all creatures target opponent controls. This is good. This is good. Your stuff is now my stuff. Ashiok's Forerunner. When Ashiok's Forerunner enters the battlefield, you may search your library and graveyard for a card named Ashiok, Sculptor of Fears. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle your library. Kroxa, Titan of Death's Hunger. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it. And unless it escaped, when it enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card. Then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life. Nice. Well, let's take a look at the blue cards we haven't seen yet. Protean Thaumaturge. Constellation. What does Constellation do? Whenever enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may have Protean Thaumaturge become a copy of another target creature, except it has this ability. Thassa's Oracle. Enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on top of your library and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. Well, it's always nice to be able to straight up win the game. Nadir Kraken. Whenever you draw a card, you may pay 1. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on the Kraken and create a 1/1 blue tentacle creature token. Where's Banksy? Where's Banksy? I found her tentacle monster. Wave Break Hippocamp. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, draw a card. Because Flash needed more help. Ashiok's Erasure. When Ashiok Erasure enters the battlefield, exile target spell. Your opponents can't cast spells with the same name as the exiled card. When Ashiok's Erasure leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to its owner's hand. That's just gross. Thassa the Deep Dwelling. As long as your devotion to blue is less than 5, she isn't a creature. At the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 other target creature you control. Then return that card to the battlefield under your control. Ooh. She has a repeating bounce. Really? I can think of fun things to do with that. Theros, the Sudden Storm. Looks like somebody I fought in Neo. Flash flying spells you cast with converted mana cost 5 or greater cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. Ooh, we like it. Kiora bests the Sea God. Create an 8/8 blue Kraken with hexproof. Honestly, if the card stopped there, it would be great. Tap all non-land permanents target opponent controls. They don't untap during the controller's next untap step. It then creates 2 basically free attack steps. Wow. And then gain control of target permanent an opponent controls and untap it. So you create a big creature that's really hard to kill. You tap all their stuff down, and then you steal something of theirs? That's a gross saga right there. Like, that's gross. Thassa's Intervention. Look at the top X cards of your library. Put up to 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Counter target spell unless its controller pays twice X. Wow. That is a really good card, just for draw. Dalakos, Crafter of Wonders. Tap, add 2 colorless. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. Equip creatures you control have flying and haste. Easy enough. Enigmatic Incarnation. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another enchantment. If you do, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed enchantment's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield and then shuffle your library. It's a birthing pod using enchantments. Alright. Serpent of the Yawning Depths. Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents you control can't be blocked. Except by Krakens, Leviathans, Octopuses, and Serpents. We'll just go ahead and create those. Sphinx Mindbreaker. When Sphinx Mindbreaker enters the battlefield, each opponent puts the top 10 cards of their library into their graveyard. Hello, Mill. We found the Mill card, boys. We found it. And Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Uro enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it escaped. Whenever Uro enters the battlefield or attacks, you gain 3 life and draw a card. Then you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Looks good. All right. I suppose we'll look at red next. Underworld Breach. Reminds me of something out of Path of Exile. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. Well, isn't that nice? The escape cost is equal to the card's mana cost, plus exile 3 other cards from your graveyard. I wonder if that allows you to escape things for cheaper than they would if they have like 5 or 6. I bet it does. Phoenix of Ash. Flying in haste, gets +2/+0 until end of turn, and it can escape. Storm Herald. Haste. Enters the battlefield, return any number of aura cards from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to creatures you control. Exile those auras at the beginning of your next end step. If those auras would leave the battlefield, exile them instead of putting them elsewhere. So basically, when you drop him, you pull back lots and lots of auras, and you have to use them that turn. Interesting. Storm's Wrath. Deal 4 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Simple, succinct, and destructive. I like it. I like it a lot. Tectonic Giant. Whenever Tectonic Giant attacks or becomes the target of a spell opponent's controls, choose one. Deals 3 damage to each opponent. Exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose one of them until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Huh. The Acronin War. Acroin. Gain control of target creature for as long as the Acroin War remains on the battlefield. Yours is now mine. Until your next turn, creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able. Okay. And each tapped creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So it forces creatures to attack, which makes them tapped, and then murders them.
Welcome to the circus of values! The Acroin War gets you everything!
Yeah. That's value in a card right there that costs 4. I like it. The Ox of Agonis. When Ox of Agonis enters the battlefield, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. Hopefully it was the last card in your hand, and then you just draw 3 cards. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. And it has the ability to escape. Perforos, Bronze-Blooded. Other creatures you control have haste. It just straight up gives haste to everything. This has haste, that has haste. They all have haste. You may put a red creature card or artifact creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, and then kill it. At the next end step, but you kill it. Perforos Intervention. Create an X1 red elemental creature token with trample and haste. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Or deal twice X damage to target creature or planeswalker. Gallia of the Endless Dance. Haste. Other satyrs you control get +1/+1 and have haste. Whenever you attack with 3 or more creatures, you may discard a card at random. If you do, draw 2 cards. Clothis, God of Destiny. Alright. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a land card, add red or green. Otherwise gain 2 life, and Clothis deals 2 damage to each opponent. That's pretty good for 3. Let's make another one of those. Terror of Mount Valus. Flying double strike 5/5 for 7. When Terror of Mount Valus enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain double strike until end of turn. You get double strike, and you get double strike, and you get double strike. The only thing that would make that better is if it had flash. Let's go ahead and craft some of those. Death Bellow War Cry. For 8. Search your library for up to 4 Minotaur creature cards with different names, and then put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Wow. I didn't realize there were that many Minotaurs. And we did not read Allure of the Unknown when we saw it before, but reveal the top 6 cards of your library. An opponent exiles a non-land card from among them, and then you put the rest into your hand. That opponent may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Alright. Let's look at some green. The Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which I saw when we were unpacking cards, and it was gross. Citizen Champion. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on the champion and draw a card. It's pretty good. The First Eroan Games. Create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. Okay. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Okay. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, draw 2 cards. Okay. And create a gold token. I don't know what a gold token does. Sacrifice this artifact. Add 1 mana of any color. Ah. I see. It is a treasure. Arasta of the Endless Web. Whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach. That could be interesting. Mantle of the Wolf. Mantle of the Wolf is put into graveyard from the battlefield. Create 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. Oh, and it makes something a 4/4 or +4/4. Nylea the Keen-Eyed. Creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Reveal the top card of your library. If it is a creature card, put it into your hand. Otherwise, you may put it into your graveyard. Nessian Boar. All creatures able to block the Nessian Boar must do so. Whenever Nessian Boar becomes blocked by a creature, that creature's controller draws a card. Wow. So you're just handing them lots and lots of cards? I guess you get to murder stuff. The Nyx Bloom Ancient. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead? That's sort of the Nissa effect on crack. Holy cow. Iron Scale Hydra. If a creature would deal combat damage to the Iron Scale Hydra, prevent that damage and put a +1/+1 counter. What? Wait a second. Roll that back. Let me read that again. If a creature would deal combat damage to Iron Scale Hydra, prevent that damage and put a +1/+1 counter on Iron Scale Hydra. Okay. It is an infinite blocker and gets bigger from doing it. Tree Shaker Chimera. All creatures able to block the Tree Shaker Chimera do so. When it dies, draw 3 cards. That is way better than Nessian Boar. Same ability, but it gets you cards instead. All right. We got for colorless. The Labyrinth of Scophos. Adds a colorless or 4 colorless and tap, remove target attacking or blocking creature from combat. You just say go away. The Shadow Spear. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Has trample and lifelink, which is always good. Permanents your opponent control lose hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. Oh. Spear says I can kill you. And the Nyx Lotus. Enters the battlefield tapped. Choose a color. Add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. I really kind of like that.